What is up, everyone? I am Jamie with Three Little Goats Homestead, and today we are in the soaping studio because it's been snowing, so it's warm in here. So today we are going to make some pine tar liquid soap. So without further ado, let's go. In my crock pot here, I have some beef tallow, olive oil, coconut oil, castor oil, and I like to add a little bit of emulsifying wax to mine as well. It's not necessary, but I just prefer the consistency when I add it. So I'm going to add in my beer powder, this batch, as well as my goat milk powder. And then we're going to get this blended up. I still have a little bit of chunks in there, which is fine because my lye water solution is still very, very hot. Now I am making a liquid soap, so I am using potassium hydroxide, not sodium hydroxide for this recipe. Just remember that. So let's get the stick blender on, and I'm going to get this all incorporated in. Alright, I'm going to turn my crock pot down on low. I had it up higher to melt everything. So now we're going to add in our lye water solution, and we're going to bring this to emulsification. And looking at this, I may have a mess on my hands later because I may have overestimated what I put in this crock pot. Trick here, because when I have my blender on, it looks like it's emulsified, right? But the minute I turn it off, you'll see it starts to come apart. So it is not there yet. Since I am not using glycerin in this recipe, be prepared to mix this for a little while to bring it all together. But if you put things like glycerin in it, it will speed up this process, but I'm not using it, so I'll be here for a minute. So I'm mixing, and you can see it's still a little bit separated, but now you can see it's starting to finally come together. So you may need 2 stick blenders when you're doing liquid soap. If not, just give your stick blender a rest every once in a while, and then keep on mixing. Alright, she's becoming thick. There's still some separation in there, so I'm going to keep going until I see everything is pretty uniform. But I'm going to, my blender is getting a little warm here, and all my other ones are possibly dirty, so we're gonna wing it. So I'm actually going to break this out of here. Get all of the goodness out of that. We will be coming back to this, so I'm not too concerned about getting all of the soap out of it. And I'm going to just use my, and we're going to give this a good stir. Alright, and now the fun part. We're going to cover this, and we're going to just let it cook. So what we're wanting to do is force this through the gel phase. So we'll know when we can start testing it, when it becomes more translucent. And when that happens, I will bring it. It's a little loud. I got my heater running because it is cold in here. So I started stirring it, but you can see the top is starting to glisten a little bit. But when we stir down into the middle, it is not there yet. So I'm just going to give this a stir. And then I'm going to start getting my pine tar ready to incorporate into this. Alright, so I have my pine tar measured out, and if you've never worked with pine tar, it is very thick, very sticky, and not the most fun thing to work with. So to clean some of this out, I'm actually going to just wiggle my spoon in here to melt some of this off. Thankfully this is pretty warm, so it'll melt fairly easy. Because I don't want to clean this out of here. This is not fun. So I'm going to put some soap in here. I'm going to mix it in here. And then we can scrape it out. And then I'll just take a paper towel and get the rest of this stuff out. And it just makes it a little bit easier to clean. A lot easier than what was in there. I thought I dropped my spoon in there. It's over off the side. I'm going to get to my big spoon. I'm going to get this mixed in here. Alright, so it doesn't look very appetizing, but it's all stirred in nice and evenly. And I'm going to grab some water and we're going to do a clarity test to see if this is ready to go. Alright, so we've been cooking for a little bit longer. I'm going to put water in this little container right here so it's easier to see. And then just grab some soap. Probably a little too much, but that's fine. I'm going to put the lid on it this time so I can shake it. One, look at all those bubbles. That's crazy. Turn that back down to warm. So I'm going to shake this. I'm going to let it sit for a minute because we can't see anything. It is way too bubbly in there, which is fine. There's soap in there. So that was on me. So let me let this settle down for a minute. Because this has pine tar in it, pine tar isn't a fat, so it's not going to saponify into our soap. So we're not going to get a crystal clear soap, which is fine. I'm trying to... It's like one of those floaty toys where you try to turn it so other people can see it, but you can't. It's as clear as it's going to get from what I can see from the bottom. So I'm happy with that. So right now I'm going to turn my crock pot off and I'm going to transfer this into my bowl. That way we can get a measurement and start diluting. So when I add my water, I usually do a 1-to-1 ratio. You can add more water if you want it thinner. You can add less water if you want your liquid soap to be thicker. It's all personal preference. And if there's some spots that look like there's no pine tar in them, that's fine. They will eventually all just get incorporated in when we're melting this down. Alright, this may take me a minute and a couple bowls because when I calculated my recipe, I looked after I got all the oils in the crock pot. I was like, that doesn't look like enough. I don't know if that's even going to be deep enough to stick blend. I may have miscalculated a little bit because I ended up doubling the recipe. It's fine. We're fine. And then since I'm not going to need all of this paste all at once because I'm not making that much liquid soap right now, because I'm still waiting for my containers, I can just store my paste in an airtight container. Not this bowl, obviously, but I can store it in an airtight container, and when I'm ready to make more liquid soap, I can just add it back to my crock pot, add my distilled water to it, and then dissolve it all down and add in my preservative. Alright, so I have this on my scale. I'm going to start adding back in my soap so we can start dissolving it down. Okay, so now that that's in, I know how much this weighs. I can weigh out my water. Alright, 1,000 grams of water. I don't think 1,000 will fit in this container. maybe if we're lucky, we'll just get right to the brim. Woohoo! Just fit. I'm going to turn my crock pot back on low. I'm going to add in my water. And we're going to just let this dissolve down. So when we are ready to go, this is probably going to take a few hours, but once it is dissolved and ready to go, I'll bring you guys back. So my soap is all dissolved finally. It's been a few hours. So we are right at the cusp of where I can put my preservative in. Words are hard today. So I'm going to go ahead and get that mixed in. And I'm just reverse weighing my bottle so I know how much I've put in. Almost there. Alright. And I have a whole blog post going over preservatives if you're interested in learning more about that. I don't have to stir this in too much, so we're going to get this stirred in, move some stuffs out of the way so we can get stuff transferred over without making too much of a mess. Can't guarantee that we won't make a giant mess like always though. So I'm just going to store these right now in half-gallon mason jars because I do want to keep an eye on these and test them before I put them in their amber jars. I just want to make sure that we don't have any separation or anything weird going on. And then we will jar them up probably in about a week. And these will thicken up as this cools down too as well. And I'm not going to cap these until they are completely cooled either. That way some of the bubbles and everything will dissipate down. I feel like I'm going to have to pour this out of the crock pot, and I feel like that's going to just make a giant mess because I forgot to bring in a ladle. So we're kind of just improvising. Story of my life, right? Yeah, I'm just going to give this a quick hopes he doesn't make a mess pour. Yay, I didn't pour it all over the place. Alright, so I'm going to let these guys hang out and I will see you guys in the outro. So one important thing to remember about making this liquid soap is pine tar is not a fat, so it's not going to get saponified into your soap paste. So it is important to remember. In the soap paste consistency, it'll be just fine. But once you start diluting it, the more water you add, the more chances of that pine tar just sinking to the bottom. So you want to make sure that your dilution leaves your soap base fairly thick so it can stay suspended, or you can add things like xanthan gum to it to help thicken it up to make sure your pine tar stays suspended. I'll have an entire blog post going over different things that you can add to it for this purpose, so be sure to check that out. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We put out videos every single week. And if you have any specific questions or if you want to see some specific video, as always, leave them down in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.